All right, so I think I'm recording. Hopefully I am. My purpose today is to walk you through the room setup for our second game in Godot. So I'm going to come up here to new project. I'm going to call it second game. You can obviously choose a better name than that. I'm going to save to my flash drive so it's really easy for me to work. And I'm not sure, I think D is my flash drive. Let me double check. D is my USB, so that's perfect. While I'm on my flash drive, I'm going to grab my sprites that I made in Piskel, and I put those under new fruit sprites, although there are no fruit. And I'm just going to hold down Shift, Control C, so that they're in my clipboard. Back to Godot. So the D is a fine directory for me to create that. I got to create a folder. It did not seem to like that name, though. Why is that? Looks like we have a little bit of a delay here as it creates that folder. What's the problem? Okay, so now I got the green check mark. We are good to go. I have a second game folder. It's going to save to my flash drive, and I'm going to say create and edit. By the way, these things right here are only important if you plan to export to a mobile device. So I did a 3D game, and I found that the OpenGL ES3 features did not show on my Galaxy S7. So when I dropped it down to the OpenGL 2, some of those features worked better. But if you're just working on a computer, just go with the default. So create and edit. We are going to be, the first thing I'm going to do is switch to 2D mode, go to project settings, and I need to choose my window size. Now, one of the things that Godot does that I really like is it lets you do math on the fly. So for example, if I wanted my room to be 64 pixel units across, I can do 16 times 64, and it's going to do that math for me. If I want my room to be 12 64 pixel units, then I can do that, and so that'll give me this size. Let's see, is there anything else I want to change while I'm here? Yes, because we're using physics bodies, one of the things that can happen if you don't do what I'm about to do is have all of your kinematic bodies collide and react to each other. And I don't want that. I only want my kinematic bodies to do something when they hit a wall. So I'm going to come down here to layer names, and I'm going to set some layers for my physics. So layer 1 is going to be my walls, and layer 2 are going to be my moving objects. Now, you might be using fruit, you might have another theme, but by setting these layers, I can choose what objects or what layers I want my objects to respond to. So that's under just, you did the window to change your room size, and then just scroll down, go to 2D physics, and set layer 1 for walls, layer 2 for moving objects, and I'll show you how to use those later. Back to our room, I am going to enable the grid, and I'm actually not going to play around with the values. Each one of these boxes, big boxes, are 64 by 64. So that's actually, I don't really need to mess with that. I am going to use my mouse wheel to scroll out a little bit, and I'm going to start building my game. So the first base node that I'm going to use is this one right here. I'm going to create a 2D scene, and I'm going to go ahead and double click it and rename it game. But I always seem to do a capital A. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm going to create a child node, another node 2D, and this one I'm going to double click and call boundary. As a child of the boundary, I'm going to create another node, and I'm going to choose static body 2D. Static body 2D, I'll remind you, is the perfect node for solid, unmoving objects. It gives me a warning that it doesn't have a shape. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. As a child of static body 2D, I'm going to add a collision shape. Now, if you're doing a more complex shaped object, you might choose a collision polygon that allows you to make different shapes, but we're going to keep it simple. So that one will work out great. You can see that it still gives me a warning. So what I have to do to get rid of that is click it, come over here to the inspector, define a shape, in this case rectangle, and you can see now I have a small rectangle. And that warning went away. So that's great news. I'm also going to double click this and call it left wall. So clicking on the object, I can grab these little circles and I can resize, scroll out here so I can get my whole wall, put that somewhere in the middle, drag that up, make adjustments until I'm completely satisfied with how that looks. So that actually looks pretty good for my left wall. So I am going to click left wall. Notice that I can hide the children. I'm going to click the left wall and I'm going to Control D to duplicate it. And that's going to give me two left walls. Obviously, that's not what I want. So I'm going to double click, call this right wall. And then click and drag that over here. But I'm concerned I have the shape and not the wall. So if you find that you're often selecting the children of a node instead of the base node that you want, you can always come up here and click this, and it makes it so it's impossible to click the child. So now I'm moving the wall and not just the collision shape. So that's what I wanted. Now I'm going to go to boundary, create another static body. I'm going to call it top. I'm going to give that a child collision shape, and that is going to need to be a rectangle as well. So again, I don't want to select the child, so I'm going to come up here, make the child unselectable, drag that over here. Well, you can still select and edit it, but it won't allow you to move it and get it screwed up. So I'm going to enlarge this, bring it over. Hey, a little too big. Drop that down, grab this, and play around with it until it's in position. Got to shrink it down. And I think that's going to do it. Yes. So now my top, with my top selected, Control D, call this bottom, and then drag that down. So now I have myself a boundary all around it. And now when I'm done working with the boundary, I can hide those children. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, try to remember what I have for screen size. So I'm going to go back to project settings, and I have chosen 1024 by 768. And I'm going to need a background. And so for the background, I'm going to use a program that I really enjoy using, and that's GIMP. GIMP is a free program that you can download with tons of features. It goes well beyond this class to explain them all to you. But it's one of my favorite art making tools on a computer. So I'm going to go to File, New, set my size. So that's 1024 by 768. Hit OK. That gives me a blank canvas. I'm going to go to the Fill tool, and I'm going to actually choose Pattern Fill, and I'm going to choose one of these. Now, for the purposes of my lesson, maybe this particular theme that I'm going to build for you is going to be based on the ocean. So I could choose one of these, big blue. I don't know what that's going to look like. Let me fill it in. And that probably would work for a background. It's a real crazy one, and it looks like, I don't know, it looks like waves or something. But if I don't like it, I can Control Z, because I'm not really sure how I feel about it. What's this one called? Electric blue. And that one actually looks great. When we do a scrolling shooter later, this might be an excellent choice for our ocean. So I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go to File, export. Now you might be using Piskel for this, or you might have another tool that you like to use. I'm going to call it background, and I'm going to go to my flash drive, find my game, which I don't even, what did I call it? Second game? So let me see if I can find that folder. Second game. And I'm going to just drop it in there. Now Godot is going to do something crazy with it. It's going to filter it, and that's often done to make 3D graphics look better. I'm not sure I'm going to love it here. So if you have something that's supposed to be pixelated and it filters it for you, with it selected, you can come up here to import and say, actually, I would like that under preset to be made for 2D pixel. And that'll get rid of that blurring and smoothing of your pixels and make them pixelated again. But I'm not sure I want to do that yet, so I'm going to leave it alone. Go back to my scene. As a child of game, I'm going to add a sprite node. I'm going to go over here and load my background, and you can see that by default, it's been centered, and I can just uncheck that. So now I have a background. So what's left? Well, I need to start creating a tile set. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go to game, add a child, tile map. I need to define a tile set, so new tile set. And then once I click that, I have an opportunity to put some things here. Now I'm going to reuse these sprites. If you remember, I Control-C'd them, but I don't remember if it's still in the clipboard. So I'm going to do it again. Control-C, go to second game, and I'm going to place. Let's see. Skip that one. I don't want to replace my background, but I am going to use the wall tile that I created in Piskel for another theme game. So I'm going to grab my wall tile, bring that over, because I think that'll work for the ocean as well. I need to say it's a single tile. I need to establish its reason. So I'm going to enable this grid, drag that down. And then when tile map selected, now you can see my tile shows up, and I can start putting the border in my room. And I made a mistake. So I just right click, it removes those easy enough. So I created this sprite in Piskel. Godot does not have its own sprite editor. So there are some reasons why somebody who is used to GameMaker might find this a little bit inconvenient, but we know that Piskel is a great tool to use. So I have my room set up. I have a boundary. One thing I forgot to do is tell my walls what collision layer to be on. So I'm going to click each of my walls, and I'm going to say, and this is how layers and masks work. Your layer is what your object is. And so in this case, my object is a wall. Your mask is what you want it to be able to interact with. So I want my wall to be able to interact with my moving objects. There's no need for a wall to interact with the wall. I could probably leave this selected and nothing bad would happen, but I'm going to just go through. I should have done this before I copied it, but it's not going to take me very long. So disable the mask and enable moving objects. So collision, you're a wall. I want you to interact with moving objects, and you're a wall, and I want you to interact with moving objects. And then what we have to do is when we create our moving objects later, I have to remember to say that you're a moving object and I want you to interact with the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and file, save all scenes. Actually, I think I have to do save scene and give it, there we go. And now my scene is saved. And that's going to be probably it for this video. So what I've done is I've created a root node. I created a sort of a container or some organizational node, named it boundary, put my walls in. I created a background using GIMP, but you can use Piskel or any other program that you want to use. And I used a tile map to lay these tiles down so that my walls are visible, and so the player has some feedback that there is, in fact, a boundary there. So I'm going to end this meeting here. So those of you who are working from home, hopefully you can use this to get caught up, and I will see you in the next video.